by Senator. Well, it being 2 p.m, we will move to questions without notice. Senator Gallagher.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Defence, Senator Reynolds. I refer to the deeply distressing story published today in which a former staff member of Minister Reynolds has made public her alleged rape in March 2019 by a then-colleague in the minister's parliamentary office and the subsequent conduct of the minister and the government. That conduct included the minister and her then Chief of Staff meeting with her staff member in the same room the alleged rape occurred. Can the minister assure the Senate that she and her office have exercised and will exercise an appropriate duty of care, including the provision of support for the victim of an alleged sexual assault in the minister's office in March 2019?
The Minister for Defence, Senator Reynolds.
Well, thank you very much, Mr President. And I can say that, of course, I'm aware of today's reports and I'm extremely concerned about the well-being of my former staff member. Women should be safe and they should feel safe in the workplace at all times. My only priority throughout this matter was the welfare of my then staff member and ensuring that she received the support that she needed. That including ensuring that she was clear about the support available to her and her right to make a formal complaint to the Australian Federal Police, should she choose to do so. At all times, my then Chief of Staff and I ensured that we sought advice from and we followed advice from Ministerial and Parliamentary Services regarding the support available. I was at pains to ensure that my staff member felt empowered to determine how she wanted to handle the matter, and that remains the case. At the time of the initial meeting with my staff member, I was not aware of the details or the circumstances of the alleged incident in my office. Had I known, I would have conducted the meeting elsewhere. And given the sensitivities surrounding this issue, it would not be appropriate for me to comment further. Thank you.
Senator Gallagher, a supplementary question.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr President. Can the minister assure the Senate that she personally ensured her staff member was referred to support services and that her staff member was accessing them, and she made clear her personal support for the staff member to report the incident on her terms and that her job would be secure regardless of her decision?
Senator Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Mr President. And I believe I've answered all of those questions in my first answer. And as I've said, given the sensitivities,
Reynolds, I've got
it would
Senator
be
Wong
appropriate.
on a point of order. Senator Wong on a point of order.
Point of order, direct relevance. The minister has not answered that question in her first answer. I know she seems to want to give one answer and then say, I'm not taking this any further. It is a reasonable question to ask whether or not this woman understood that her job would be secure regardless of her decision.
The minister was speaking for a very brief period of time, and so I've allowed you to highlight that part of the question, Senator Wong. Senator Reynolds, had you concluded your answer? You had. Senator Gallagher, a supplementary question.
Thank you.
Order. Order. Senator Gallagher has the call.
Thank you, Mr President. Can the minister assure the Senate that neither she, her staff, nor any of the Prime Minister's staff said or did anything which may have implicitly encouraged her former staff member not to pursue the incident with police?
Senator Reynolds.
Well, thank you very much, Mr President. And as I said in my first answer, my first and only concern was then and remains her welfare, including her right to understand all of her options and for those to be presented to her, which they were. She did continue after this incident in my employ and then moved to Senator Cash's office for the preceding 2 years.
Senator Bragg.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Health and Aged Care, Senator Colbeck. Can the Minister confirm to the Senate that the COVID-19 vaccine rollout is on track?
The Minister representing the Minister for Health and Aged Care, Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr President. Thanks, Senator Bragg, for the question. Mr President, rolling out the COVID-19 vaccine is one of the most significant public health campaigns we have had to conduct this century, and this government, Mr President, is on track to deliver that program. In fact, Minister Hunt has announced this afternoon that the Pfizer vaccinations have just touched down in Sydney, which, Mr President, is a significant milestone for this country. The Australian government aims to have as many people vaccinated as soon as possible. Identified priority groups will be the first to get the available doses of vaccines, and more people, Mr President, will progressively have access to a vaccine as more doses become available. Our world-class vaccination program will commence with identified priority populations, including aged care and disability residents and workers, frontline healthcare workers and quarantine and border workers to receive the vaccine first up, Mr President. They will be part of Phase 1A.
Order.
It is on track to deliver as planned and begin rollout this month, Mr President. Phase 1B will include adults aged 70 years and over, other healthcare workers, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people over 55, younger adults with an underlying medical condition, including those with a disability, and critical high-risk workers, including defence, fire, police and emergency services and the meat processing workers, Mr President. All these groups have been identified as critical to receive the vaccine as soon as possible. And, Mr President, Phase 2A includes adults aged 50 to 69 years, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people 18 to 54 years, and other critical high-risk workers.
Order, Senator Colbeck. Senator Bragg, a supplementary question.
Thank you. Can the minister please outline how many vaccines will be rolled out?
Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr President. Thanks, Senator Bragg, for this question. Australia is fortunate, Mr President, to be in the position of having secured enough doses to cover the Australian population 3 times over. So far, the Australian government has agreements in place for our community in Australia, which includes 20 million Pfizer doses, 53.8 million AstraZeneca doses and 51 million Novavax doses, Mr President. We also have access up to $25.6 million doses through the COVAX facility. As I've outlined, the first delivery of Pfizer doses arrived today, and the international AstraZeneca doses supplies to Australia are likely in March, subject to both TGA approval and shipping, of course, Mr President. Domestic AstraZeneca production via CSL of 50 million doses is likely to be ready for supply to meet our
Senator
program.
Colbeck. Senator Bragg, a final supplementary question.
Thank you. Can the minister please update the Senate on how the vaccine rollout plan is supporting vulnerable Australians?
Senator Colbeck.
Thanks, Mr President. COVID-19 risks the lives of those most vulnerable in our society, and we have prioritised those most at risk, Mr President, our senior Australians and our frontline workers. We are protecting those who are most likely to experience serious disease, Mr President. We are maintaining the functioning of healthcare and other essential services to preserve health, social and economic security, and extending the vaccination to the general population as quickly as possible. Each phase of the rollout strategy, Mr President, is structured to align with specific population groups based on their risks, as advised by the Australian Technical Advisory Group on Immunisation. At every step, Mr President, our highest priority is to safeguard our most precious of resources, our people. Our number one aim is to prevent death and severe disease and limit the transmission of this insidious virus to the maximum extent possible.
Has expired. Senator Farrell.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Industrial Relations, Senator Payne. 2020 saw the largest expansion of casual employment ever in the history of Australia. Between May and November, 62% of all jobs created were casual. Isn't it true the government's so-called comeback is built on the backs of casual workers?
The Minister representing the Minister for Industrial Relations, Senator Payne.
Thank you, Mr President. I thank Senator Farrell for his question. I don't have the specific figures that Senator Farrell has quoted in front of me, but I will take those on face value, as Senator Farrell has articulated them. And I would, of course, observe, as I understood his question, they relate to the jobs profile in Australia in 2020, which, of course, is characterised by being completely uncharacteristic of any previous year in living memory. That is, a work, jobs and economic environment completely struck by a global pandemic, in which Australians and, in fact, the international community found their lives disrupted, their workplaces disrupted, and, in fact, whole economies disrupted. What this government did and continues to do was to seek, through a number of initiatives, including additional payments, including additional job seeker payments, including JobKeeper itself, and ultimately the development of the Job Maker plan, was to ensure that as many workers as possible were supported in the workplace, and as many workers as possible who unavoidably lost their jobs due to the pandemic were also supported as best as possible. That was an extraordinary undertaking by this government in 2020, one of the most significant investments of funds in Australia in anyone's living memory or lifetime. So a number of jobs to which Senator Farrell has referred obviously returned in a different manifestation than they previously had. That's correct. But what the JobKeeper statistics now show, Mr President, is that the economy is improving, and indeed that Australia has gone ahead of many other major advanced nations, with a larger proportion of Australians who were in work before this crisis still in work today.
Time has expired. Senator Farrell, a supplementary question.
Yes, thank you, Mr President. I do have one. Can the minister confirm that instead of doing something to fix the scourge of insecure work, Mr Morrison's proposed industrial relations changes will in fact make that situation worse?
Senator Payne.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and I absolutely disagree with Senator Farrell. What the government's reforms will provide is the strongest ever casual conversion rights to employees who want to become permanent, and spread those rights to all those employees who don't have conversion rights now. For example, like those in the coal industry. For whatever reason, those opposite don't want this. They apparently think that casuals working should stick with the rights they were given with those opposite over a decade ago. They see casuals who want permanent work as, and I quote, collateral damage, unquote, Mr President. What our reforms will do is to introduce stronger penalties for wage underpayment and wage theft to ensure employees' entitlements are secure, as well as a more efficient path to recover underpayments where they do occur. Again, those opposite don't want that. In fact, so committed are they to do nothing about wage theft that the opposition's industrial relations spokesman thought it would be a good idea to do a press conference outside of 7-Eleven.
Senator Farrell, a final supplementary question.
Yes, I do have one. Thank you, Mr President. 23 employment law academics have warned Mr Morrison's industrial relations changes will, and I quote, not just fail to address pressing labour market issues such as wage stagnation, insecurity of work and entrenched inequalities, it will exacerbate them. Are these experts wrong?
Senator Payne.
Mr President, thank you. I don't have the benefit of the material that Senator Farrell has referred to, and in the absence of that, Senator Farrell, I would continue to refer the senator to the facts that exist within the government's legislation. Our reforms will incentivise permanent work, complete with paid leave entitlements in our vital retail and hospitality sectors, as well as to help give more hours of work for the more than 100,000 part-time employees in those sectors who are going underemployed under the system that those opposite actually set up. And again, they don't seem to want to fix that. They don't seem to see the unemployed, underemployed as important. Our reforms are focused on boosting pay by reinvigorating an enterprise bargaining system that on average pays 69% or $500 or more a week than award wages, but which has seen the total number of agreements more than halve, from 25,000 down to 10,000, under the broken system that was put in place by those opposite. Even former Prime Minister Keating thinks the current system, as put in place by those opposite.
Senator Small.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Employment, Skills, Small and Family Business and my fellow West Australian, Senator Cash. Could the Minister please outline to the Senate how Australia's small businesses are recovering from the economic impacts of COVID-19 and how the Morrison government has assisted to keep their doors open throughout the pandemic?
The Minister for Employment, Skills, Small and Family Business, Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President, and I thank Senator Small for his question. And can I also acknowledge Senator Small as someone who is a small business owner himself. He built a small business from scratch in the southwest of Western Australia. He knows what it's like to actually have sleepless nights. He knows what it's like to employ people. He knows what it's like to actually pay wages. And, Mr President, it's people like Senator Small, the small business men and women across Australia, that the Morrison government continues to deliver for. Why? Because, as we know, they are the backbone of the Australian economy. They are the employers of over 6 million Australians. Every day, over 6 million Australians wake up and they are able to go to work, have the dignity of work because of the small and family businesses in Australia. When you come to look at what they do in local communities, as we know, they are the lifeblood of their local communities. They sponsor the sporting teams, the community events, and they often offer young Australians their very first job. Mr President, in terms of the economic support that the Morrison government has provided to the lifeblood of the Australian economy throughout COVID-19, we've provided $251 billion in economic support throughout the pandemic. In particular, as we know, JobKeeper has been an essential policy. It's now estimated to have provided $90 billion worth of support, and it is a wage subsidy on a scale that has never been seen in Australia. In terms of the cash flow boost, giving businesses back their own hard-earned money, this saw over $35 billion provided to over 800,000 businesses. And in relation to the Supporting Apprentices wage subsidy, that has kept around 119,500 apprentices on the tools in 62,600 small businesses. They are the backbone of the Australian economy, and the Morrison government backs them every step of the way.
Senator Small, a supplementary question.
Thanks, Mr President. Can the Minister advise how the government will continue to build a stronger Australia by supporting small and family businesses throughout 2021?
Senator Cash.
Well, Mr President, in 2021 the Morrison government will continue to put more money back into Australians' pockets, will protect more of what they've earned, because let's face it, it's their hard-earned money, and of course support families and businesses. In terms of our legislated tax cuts for small and medium businesses, the full expensing for new investments, something
Senator
that was
O'Neill.
welcomed widely by businesses across Australia, and our loss carryback measure. This will all provide, it's a suite of policies, and it will all provide that much-needed support, that much-needed boost for small businesses who, as we know, many still continue to do it tough. We need to help them to ensure that their business is able to grow so that they can continue to create more jobs for Australians. In terms of our $4 billion boosting apprentice commencements wage subsidy, this is supporting small businesses out there to actually take on a new apprentice into their business. They're the backbone of the Australian economy. Small businesses, and the Morrison government will back them every step of the way.
Cash. Senator Small, a final supplementary question.
Minister, how has the government's record of delivering for small and family businesses put in place the conditions to allow our small businesses to recover, invest and employ more Australians as we emerge from COVID-19?
Senator Cash.
Well, Mr President, on this side of the chamber, the Morrison government side of the chamber, we have a proud record of supporting small business. And in fact, as Senator Small would know, it's not just about being the business owner and running the business. You work enormously hard. You are the HR department often. You are the bookkeeper often. You're the marketing department. You're often the floor staff, and often you need to get the family to work in the business on the weekends. But every day, small business people across Australia, they get up, they go to work because they are passionate about their business. They're passionate about giving other Australians the opportunity of work. The one thing that I'm always humbled by when it comes to small business is they don't ask for a lot from government. They don't ask for much, but what they do need and what they do want is to be supported to do what they do best. run their business and employ Australians. Mr President, in terms of our tax cut for small businesses, this was so important. We gave them back money, their hard-earned money, so that they could reinvest back into their business.
Order. Senator Waters.
Thanks very much, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Minister Birmingham. I refer to today's reports of an alleged rape of a young Liberal staffer that happened in this building. The PMO provided support to Minister Reynolds' office in relation to this incident. The government, in a recently issued statement, says, and I quote, that it regrets in any way if Ms Higgins felt unsupported through this process. End quote. Ms Higgins has said she did feel unsupported. She was interviewed in the room she was raped. She didn't access the Employee Access Program. She felt she was discouraged from reporting the rape to police. She was shunted from office to office, and no one in the government or the minister's office has apologised to her yet. And now the minister seems to have a confused recollection of whether she even understood there was a rape allegation that had been disclosed. What action will you take to ensure that her experience is not repeated? When will the safety of women be put ahead of political interests?
The Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Birmingham.
Thanks, Mr President. I thank Senator Waters for her question. Safety of everybody in any workplace is of paramount importance, especially the safety of women in the workplace and their ability to feel safe and secure in their working environment. Today's reports are deeply distressing. Throughout the entire process, the government's concern was to support Ms Higgins's welfare in whatever way possible. We understand that this matter has now been put under consideration by the Australian Federal Police. It is an important step, and the government has consistently supported that option from the outset. We will await the outcome of that process. I am advised that at all times guidance was sought from Ms Higgins as to how she wished to proceed and to support and respect her decisions. The important best practice principle, as the Prime Minister's statement that you referenced, or the statement that was tabled in the House of Representatives that you referenced, the important best practice principle of empowering Ms Higgins is something the government has sought to follow. Ms Higgins, I understand, was notified that should she choose to pursue a complaint, including a complaint to the police, that was within her rights, that she would be assisted and supported through that process. You indeed did reference, Senator Waters, the fact that there are support services available through the Department of Finance for all employees under the Members of Parliament Staff Act to be able to access. Of course, where an assault is alleged to occur, I would encourage anyone to pursue that with the appropriate police and authorities, but also to know whether an assault or instances of bullying, harassment or otherwise, that all employees can access confidential support and counselling through the Employee Assistance Program. That program is there for their support, and the Department of Finance will treat them with respect and confidentiality as they wish.
Senator Waters, a supplementary question.
Thanks very much, President. This is at least the third public report of Liberal staffers being assaulted at work, telling their boss about it and feeling like nothing was done to support them. Given the frequency with which these issues arise, what policies does the Liberal Party have regarding how to respond to assault allegations appropriately, and have these policies been reviewed, either in response to earlier allegations by a Ms Potter and a Ms Marnie, or in response to the Four Corners report or Ms Higgins' situation? What have you done?
Order. Senator Birmingham.
Thanks, Mr President. Well, clearly, the support services that are available to staff of all members of Parliament, regardless of the party affiliation of those employing members or senators. And that support is available on a comprehensive basis to all, and as I emphasised before, is handled in a confidential manner, where any staff who may feel subject of any type of bullying, harassment or indeed other actions should feel.
Order. Senator Waters, a point of order.
It's a point of order. My question was about Liberal Party policies and whether they've been reviewed. It wasn't about the EAP.
I think the Minister is being directly relevant because the question was quite long for a supplementary question, and I think the Minister is directly addressing the subject matter raised. You've restated your preferred part of the question. I'll call the minister to continue.
Thanks, Mr President. As I was saying, those processes apply to everybody, and all staff in the building should have confidence that their steps are completed with utmost confidentiality, including, of course, that I, as the minister, or any other politician would not be informed of such engagement unless it was at the wish of the staff member involved. In relation to individual political parties, the Liberal Party has indeed updated codes in recent times.
Senator Waters, a final supplementary question.
Yes, thanks, President. This building is a high-risk workplace. Ms Brittany Higgins said of the sight of the Prime Minister standing next to Young Australian of the Year Grace Tame, herself a survivor of sexual assault, quote, "He's standing next to a woman who has campaigned for Let Her Speak, and yet in my mind his government was complicit in silencing me. It was a betrayal. It was a lie." Would you support requesting the Sex Discrimination Commissioner to undertake a culture review of the Parliament House to recommend ways of keeping staff safe?
Senator Birmingham.
Thank you, Mr President. Well, as I said, the importance of staff safety is paramount. It is crucial that we ensure that the processes that are available to staff are thorough, and certainly as Minister in this space, I am committed to working with the Department of Finance to ensure that staff can have confidence in those processes and procedures and make use of them.
Senator Wong.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is also to the Minister for Defence, Senator Reynolds, and I give the Minister the opportunity to respond to the question she declined to answer earlier as follows. Can the Minister assure the Senate that neither she, her staff, nor any of the Prime Minister's staff said or did anything which may have encouraged, implicitly or explicitly, her former staff member not to pursue the incident with police?
The Minister for Defence, Senator Reynolds.
Well, thank you very much, Mr President. And as I said in my first answer, my first and only concern was for the welfare of my staff member. I received and took all appropriate advice from Ministerial and Parliamentary Services, and all of that information was communicated to my former staff member at the time. It was actually me who suggested that she might like to consider talking to the Australian Federal Police, and it was actually me who facilitated the first meeting with the Australian Federal Police with an appropriately qualified officer. And the process from there was a matter between my staff member and the AFP, appropriately so.
Senator Wong, a supplementary question.
In the statement the government has issued today, to which the Minister has referred, it is asserted, I quote, Minister Reynolds stated there would be, to Ms Higgins, that there would be no impact upon her career. Can the Minister advise when and how she did make that statement or those statements, and what guarantees were given by the Minister to Ms Higgins to assure her there would be no impact on her career?
Senator Reynolds.
Well, thank you very much, Mr President. And as I have said, all the way through this process, I was at pains to make sure that my staff member understood the support that was available to her, and that my Chief of Staff and I were there for her, whatever decisions she should make. She continued in my office until the election, and then she went voluntarily, took a job, I understand a promotion, into Senator Cash's office. So we did everything we could to make sure that she had choice in what she did, and that she was, as she did, she remained in my office and then went to another office, as I understand it, on a promotion.
Senator Wong, a final supplementary question.
What steps did this Minister take to ensure that Ms Higgins was confident that her career with the Liberal Party would not be negatively impacted by a decision to make a complaint to the police?
Senator Reynolds.
Well, I think, Mr President, I've answered that a couple of times. My primary responsibility and my only concern was for the welfare of my staff member. All advice was taken, and that was communicated on multiple occasions to my staff member, and I made it clear that whatever decision she took, It had to be her decision, which is very important. She absolutely had, and there was no indication from me at all that her job was at risk. And in fact, as I said, it was my suggestion to her that she consider talking to the Australian Federal Police, and I facilitated that first meeting to ensure that she understood that she had that option available to her. And indeed, since that time, she continued to work for me, and she's continued to work for Senator Cash in a promotion.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Industrial Relations, Senator Payne. The government's proposed industrial relations bill in its current construct is overly complex and seriously undermines the Better Off Overall test that protects workers from dodgy wage deals. Australian workers and small businesses have sacrificed so much during state and federal government virus lockdowns and restrictions, while big business have largely flourished. Pausing the boot test for 2 years would effectively leave the door open to big business cutting wages and conditions and ultimately leave many Australian workers worse off. Minister, is the Morrison government prepared to sink the boot into its changes in order to enable One Nation and other crossbench members to continue genuine discussions on industrial relations reform that won't hurt Australian workers and will protect Australian workers?
The Minister representing the Minister for Industrial Relations, Senator Payne.
Thank you very much, Mr President. I thank Senator Roberts for his question, and let me begin by responding to the last part of his question and absolutely assure him that, of course, the government is prepared to engage in constructive discussions and negotiations with you, Senator Roberts, with colleague Senator Hanson, with all members of the chamber on these matters. Of course we are, as we have done in the past on a whole range of pieces of legislation and continue to do. We do have, it would seem, Senator Roberts, a different view about the implications in relation to the Better Off Overall test in the legislation, and I've noted your view. I think, however, there are, outside this chamber, a number of, and perhaps inside in some cases, a number of false claims being made about the proposed changes to the Better Off Overall test under the enterprise bargaining framework. For example, there have been suggestions that we are removing the Better Off Overall test, and that is not the case. The bill does not remove the test. In fact, enterprise agreements will continue to leave workers better off than they would be under the relevant award. That's one of the reasons that the bill is making enterprise bargaining easier, so that more agreements are able to be made and more workers are left better off. We see that the changes we're making to the Better Off Overall test will ensure that the Fair Work Commission gives significant weight to the views of the parties, that it considers actual and reasonably foreseeable work arrangements, not hypothetical ones, and considers
Senator
the
O'Neill.
overall benefits to workers.
Senator O'Neill.
What the bill also does is to build on the existing public interest exception to the Better Off Overall test, which has actually been in Commonwealth industrial legislation for decades, including in the Fair Work Act, and was, of course, introduced by those opposite. This long-standing exception only applies in exceptional circumstances and where it's not contrary to the public interest. It's not a provision that's used very often, but it is sometimes necessary to save a business and protect jobs during a short-term crisis.
Order, Senator Payne. Senator Roberts, a supplementary question.
Thank you. Answering my questions in Townsville, the CFMEU Mining and Energy Division's legal director, Mr Bukarika, had the courage and integrity to acknowledge that the union's Hunter Valley division had enabled the permanent casuals rort. Until we get to the core of the industrial relations problem, the government's proposed changes add needless complexity and transfer the risk from big business to small business. When will the Morrison government admit its role through 6 years of inaction that enabled big mining companies, labour hire firms and the Hunter Valley CFMEU to collude in redefining the term casual and then in exploiting casual workers?
Expired. Senator Payne.
Thank you very much, Mr President. And I would, of course, acknowledge that Senator Roberts and I have discussed a number of matters, particularly relating to particular coal miners in Australia in recent times, as he has raised them through the estimates process in which I've been present representing the Minister for Industrial Relations. So I acknowledge your long-standing and abiding concern for those people, those individuals. I'm not familiar with the advice from the CFMEU legal advisor on this matter that you received in Townsville, Senator, but it is not the case that the government agrees with the characterisation that has been made. The government's view is that these initiatives, this reform, in fact, will contribute in a positive sense to responding to the economic crisis caused by COVID-19, or triggered by COVID-19, that we see ourselves at a critical point in our recovery, and as we navigate our way out of this COVID-19-induced economic crisis, it's our ability to—
Time for the answer has expired. Senator Roberts, a final supplementary question.
Minister, our country's largest employer is small business. Will you give Australian workers an assurance that you are prepared to drop the Morrison government's changes to the Better Off overall test and simply focus on genuine industrial reform that won't hurt already struggling workers and small business?
Senator Payne.
Thank you, Mr President, and I absolutely agree with Senator Roberts about the importance of small business in this country, as Minister Cash advised us in response to an earlier question from Senator Small. I won't give that guarantee, Senator, because the government does not share the same view of the legislation, but I will undertake, of course, the government undertakes, the minister himself undertakes, to work closely with senators to address issues of concern.
Senator Fawcett.
Thanks, Mr President. My question is also to Senator Payne, as the Minister for Foreign Affairs. Will the Minister update the Senate on the World Health Organisation's recent mission to Wuhan and the Australian government's support to international efforts to prevent and, where necessary, respond to future pandemics such as COVID-19?
The Minister for Foreign Affairs, Senator Payne.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and I thank Senator Fawcett particularly for this important question, because throughout COVID-19 the Australian government's sole focus has been protecting the health and the well-being of all Australians. Our domestic response has been guided by expert health advice, and it has been amongst the most successful in the world. We believe that transparent, scientific investigation of how this virus emerged is essential to preventing future global pandemics. So last week, Mr President, the WHO convened scientific team studying the origins of COVID-19 concluded its mission to Wuhan, and those investigations are, of course, critical. I particularly want to acknowledge and recognise the contribution of Australia's Professor Dominic Dwyer, a renowned microbiologist from Westmead Hospital in Western Sydney. Australia has consistently advocated for the expert scientific team visiting China to have access to all data, information and key locations relevant to their inquiries. Australia joins our key partners, including UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab, US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, in reiterating the need for full access to all information relevant to determining how this pandemic emerged. While there was a lengthy press conference at the conclusion of the mission last week, we are yet to see a formal report with findings, analysis and recommendations for future work. We will consider those scientific findings carefully when they are released, and Australia reiterates again the need for transparency and independence throughout this process. The World Health Assembly resolution of May last year delivered a very clear mandate to identify the source of the COVID-19 virus and how it was transmitted to humans. Our collective ongoing work is vital, as we all want to establish the origin and spread of this pandemic so that we can learn the lessons and prevent future devastating outbreaks of disease.
Senator Fawcett, a supplementary question.
Thanks, Mr President. Would the Minister outline Australia's ongoing work with international partners to ensure that international health architecture is fit for purpose to tackle future health challenges?
Senator Payne.
Thank you very much, Mr President. The World Health Organization itself is an important partner in the Indo-Pacific, and I want to acknowledge its work in our region. What COVID-19, however, has shown is there is a need to strengthen, to reform the WHO. As a member of the WHO Executive Board, Australia has consistently advocated the importance of principled, collective action from the international community. I've discussed this work with the Director-General of the WHO, Dr Tedros, on a number of occasions and stated clearly that Australia will remain a constructive and pragmatic contributor to these efforts. Last month, Australia joined the G7 and the Republic of Korea in calling to strengthen and reform the WHO to ensure it remains fit for evolving challenges, including with the continued strong support and involvement of its member states and the international community.
Senator Forster, the final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Will the minister update the Senate on Australia's ongoing advocacy for an independent, comprehensive and impartial evaluation of COVID-19?
Senator Payne.
Thank you, Mr President. Australia remains closely engaged with the Independent Panel for Pandemic Preparedness and Response, led, of course, by former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Helen Clark, and the former President of Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. We've welcomed the Independent Panel's progress report of January 19th. Australia has advocated for strengthening the WHO's authority to quickly access and investigate an outbreak, and our national submission to the panel focused clearly on building an independent and authoritative WHO, reducing the risk of zoonotic disease transmission and strengthening WHO operations on the ground. The panel's progress report stated that the WHO's power to, and I quote, validate reports of disease outbreaks and deploy resources to affected areas is gravely limited, unquote. Following the WHO investigation team's media conference last week, Australia will continue to advocate for a review and a report that is both thorough and credible.
Senator Payne. Senator Urquhart.
President, my question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Home Affairs, Senator Reynolds. Documents released under Freedom of Information have revealed that Minister Dutton announced 2 grants for 2 councils during the Braddon by-election worth $194,000. The grants were announced a month before the rules for the grants opened and against the explicit advice of his own community safety experts who warned they, and I quote, do not reflect the order of merit, and you may be criticised either in the media or by the Australian National Audit Office. Why did the minister ignore the advice of community safety experts and fund the grants?
The Minister representing the Minister for Home Affairs, Senator Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and I thank the senator for the question. In issues such as this, the facts really matter, and let me share some of the facts with those opposite. This government is absolutely committed to making Australian communities a safe place to live and to work. The Safer Communities funds provided to address crime and antisocial behaviour helps communities to reduce violence and improve safety in local communities. Since 2016, the government has committed $180 million to this program. Let me put a few facts, as I said, on the record in relation to this question, in relation to round 3 of the Safer Communities Fund. A total of 465 applications totalling over $58 million were received for funding for approximately $17 million. Of these 465 applications, the Department of Home Affairs recommended 70 be approved. Each of these applications that the department recommended received funding. The department also reckoned that Minister Dutton select 15 from a reserve list of 210. All 210 of those applications have been assessed as suitable for funding. In fact, to enable this to be funded, the minister himself reduced a number of grants to enable funding to a number of Labor seats. So, for example, Nick Champion, the member for Spence, funded 6 CCTVs under these savings. Catherine King, the member for Ballarat, also funded 4 fixed CCTVs.
Senator Watt.
And the list goes on and on. In fact, the spending between Labor and Coalition seats is almost identical.
Senator Urquhart, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. It has also been revealed Minister Dutton awarded the National Retail Association a grant of almost $1 million after they donated to his campaign. Why did the minister make the nearly $1 million grant to his campaign donor?
Senator Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Mr President. And again, facts matter, and they matter in this case a great deal. So this really desperate attempt to try and smear the Minister for Home Affairs is sad, and it's clearly not supported by the evidence, and let me share with you why. The National Retail Association donated to both sides of this chamber. The member for Griffith received a $2,000 donation from the National Retailers Association. in 2018 and 2019. The other point to make is that because Labor are so obsessed with the politics and throwing mud, they actually failed to take into account a much more significant public event, a very sad and a frightening event that occurred on November 2018. And of course, that was the Burke Street terror attack of the 9th of November. On the 9th of November, one male attacker set his car on fire and stabbed 3 people and attacked police at Melbourne. Of those 3 stabbing victims, one tragically died at the scene. So that person was Sisto Malaspina.
Time for the answer has expired. Senator Urquhart, a final. Senator Wong, Senator Urquhart, a final supplementary question.
Mr President, Minister Dutton was warned not to misuse taxpayer dollars. He gave his Liberal donor mates a grant of almost $1 million. His rolled gold rorting now includes an eye-watering $36,000 taxpayer-funded RAAF flight to Tasmania to announce his dodgy grants. Why does the Morrison government treat taxpayer money like it's Liberal Party money?
Senator Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Mr President. And as I started to explain in relation to this, the facts matter. And the convenient fact is Labor have left out why that grant was made, again in response to that terrible terrorist attack in Melbourne, because the National Retailers Association applied for a funding under the Protected Crowded Place project to assist retailers deter, delay and respond to a terrorist attack. That is a convenient fact that you have left out. And noting the significant events affecting the public and retailers over the months of November 2018, his office asked the Department of Home Affairs to consider this proposal and have the Department of Finance cost it. It was assessed and recommended to be funded as it represented value for money and a proper use of Commonwealth resources, consistently with Public Government's Performance and Accountabilities Act 2013. It was used, and again, you conveniently don't recall that this
Senator
was
Keneally.
used for a most important response to a terrorist attack.
Reynolds. Senator Rennick.
My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Housing, Senator Ruston. Can the Minister update the Senate on how the Morrison's government's home builder grants—
Senator Rennick, I'll ask you to start again. I can't hear the question. Order on my left. I can't hear. Senator Rennick has the call. Senator Rennick, you can start again.
My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Housing, Senator Ruston. Can the Minister update the Senate on how the Morrison government's home builder grants are helping to drive our coronavirus economic recovery?
Minister representing the Minister for Housing, Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and thanks Senator Rennick for his question. Well, I think everybody in this place understands the huge contribution that the construction sector has always played in being a key pillar of our economy, and it is a very essential pillar of our economic recovery as we recover from the coronavirus pandemic. And so the Morrison government's home builder program is providing Australians with grants to build a new home or to renovate an existing home. And I'm pleased to say that as of the 31st of December 2020, more than 83,000 households had applied for this particular grant. And I'm pleased also to inform that 80% of the applications have been for new home construction. And in your home state, Senator Rennick of Queensland, there have been more than 18,000 applications to this actual program. And that has been absolutely fundamental in assisting the state's building industry. And with the ABS is now reporting that approvals for private sector houses rose by 7.5% in December, reaching the highest levels that we've seen since 1994. At the outset of the pandemic, sales of houses virtually stopped overnight, and up to 500,000 jobs across many industries were put at risk. But as we ended 2020, new home sales were up 32.5% compared on the previous year, a remarkable turnaround thanks to this amazing program and the investment that we've made in the construction industry. Home Builder was created as a stimulus to increase confidence and encourage buyers back into the market as the devastating impacts of the coronavirus pandemic started to hit the market. We now can say that with no doubt whatsoever that the Home Builder program has well and truly exceeded our expectations and its goals and has kept hundreds and thousands of tradies in work who otherwise would have been unemployed. We extended the program and we are absolutely delighted.
Order, Senator Ruston. Senator Rennick, a supplementary question.
How does the Morrison government help Australians who want to enter the housing market for the first time?
Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr President. Well, we all know that home ownership is an absolutely intrinsic part of the Australian dream, and it's also a very important component of creating lifelong stability for Australians. And that's why, as the government, we have given young Australians the mechanism and confidence to invest in their future. Saving for a deposit can be particularly difficult, so our first home loan deposit scheme helps Australians buy their first house by making their deposit only as little as 5%. And as part of our economic plan to rebuild our economy, the scheme was extended to allow an additional 10,000 young Australians who are buying their first home to be able to access this particular program with a guaranteed loan until the 30th of June 2021. When we first introduced the Home Builder program, those opposite insisted that nobody would take up the offer and it was only for the rich. We now know that first home buyers were the biggest cohort to use this grant, and despite the pandemic, we've seen the highest number of first home buyers in 11 years.
Senator Rennick, the final supplementary question.
How is the Home Builder program supporting Australia's construction industry?
Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr President. Well, the livelihoods of more than 1 million Australians lie in residential construction. 1 million Australians. And we know that for every new home that is built in Australia, it will support 43 tradies through that process. That's bricklayers, that's glass manufacturers, Australian jobs in rural areas and in urban areas, and they are the beneficiaries from the construction support of our Home Builder grant program. Treasury has estimated that the Home Builder program will support $18 billion worth of residential construction projects. And I'd like to quote the CEO of the Master Builders, Danita Warren, who said, "There is no doubt that the federal government's decisive action to implement Home Builder saved the day for thousands of small builders and tradies, the people they employ and the communities they support around the country. We will, as the coalition government, always prioritise jobs, support home buyers and get our tradies back to work to support a strong Australia."
Senator Wong.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is again to the Minister for Defence, Senator Reynolds. The Minister has today referred to a meeting in her office between the Minister and, amongst others, Ms Higgins. Can the Minister confirm, was this the only meeting that the Minister was personally engaged in with Ms Higgins in relation to the alleged assault?
The Minister for Defence, Senator Reynolds.
Look, thank you very much, Mr President, and I thank Senator Wong for that question. Senator Wong, I'll have to take that one on notice. I'll just explain why, because I understand that this situation is still subject of an open AFP inquiry. So I'll just need to take advice in terms of how much detail is appropriate for me to comment, and then I will get back to the chamber, Senator President.
Order. Order on my left. Order. Senator Wong, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Earlier in question time today, the Minister explained the location of the meeting by indication she was at that point unaware of the alleged assault. Can the Minister explain how she claims she was unaware of the alleged assault at the time of that meeting, given the meeting took place after Ms Higgins had reported the assault to the Minister's Chief of Staff?
Senator Reynolds.
Senator Wong, I will again take that question on notice because it goes to a very important matter, and that this is still the subject of an open AFP investigation since April 2019. I can confirm the details of that first meeting, and as I said at that first meeting, I was unaware of the circumstances of the alleged incident. I will seek some further legal advice in terms of the detail of how much I can communicate publicly, and I will come back to the chamber as soon as I can on that.
Senator Wong, a final supplementary question.
Can the Minister explain how she now claims she was unaware of the assault at the time of the reported meeting, given her answer also today that she told Ms Higgins in that meeting that the Minister would support her going to the police?
Senator Reynolds.
Senator Wong, I did not in fact say that it was at that meeting about the police. What I did confirm is that all throughout this, I took all of the relevant advice from Ministerial and Parliamentary Services. That information was communicated to my staff member, and including my recommendation to her that she consider talking to the AFP and seeking advice from them, which again is something that I facilitated for her. Now, in terms of any of the further detail on that, I will go and seek advice because it is the subject. I've been advised of an ongoing AFP investigation into the matter, which was opened in April 2019, and it's my advice that that investigation is still open, or at least ongoing. So I do need to make sure that I do not prejudice anything that she may have decided to do then and now.
Order. Senator. Order. Order. Senator Molan.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for International Development and the Pacific, Senator Seselja. Given the importance of health security and economic recovery in the Indo-Pacific, will the Minister please update the Senate on the progress of Australia's provisions of vaccine to the Pacific and Southeast Asia?
The Minister for International Development and the Pacific, Senator Seselja.
Thank you, Mr President, and I thank Senator Molan for the question. Australia is proud to be offering full COVID-19 vaccine coverage for the Pacific and Timor-Leste in close partnership with New Zealand, the United States and France. We are committing $523.2 million over 3 years to a COVID-19 vaccine access health initiative for the Pacific and Southeast Asia. Now, this funding complements the $80 million we've previously committed to the multilateral COVAX facility's advanced market commitment for developing countries. In Southeast Asia, we will work with partners like the World Bank to meet the needs of the much larger populations in our region. This initiative will provide safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines and support health security in our region. And those points, safety and effectiveness, are critically important. We will only support the rolling out of vaccines to our neighbours once they have been approved by a stringent regulatory authority and countries are adequately prepared to administer the right vaccines for their local conditions. Senator Payne and I are in regular contact with our counterparts in the Pacific and Southeast Asia to underline our commitment and to progress the next steps of our cooperation on vaccine access and rollouts in their nations. We expect that vaccines procured by the COVAX facility's AMC will be the first available to countries in our region. Gavi and the WHO's best estimate is the AMC will begin to supply before the end of March 2021. Finally, I'd like to recognise that our Pacific partners have handled this situation extremely well so far, and this is a testament to the incredible leadership across our region. Our focus is on trying to save lives and livelihoods. Access to WHO-approved COVID-19 vaccines will help economies reopen and ensure stability. Our regional vaccine initiative will enable the purchase of vaccines by our neighbouring countries and will provide them with the necessary technical support to prepare for vaccine introduction.
Time for the answer has expired. Senator Molan, a supplementary question.
Can the Minister please update the Senate on the comprehensive nature of Australia's COVID-19 support measures to the Pacific and Southeast Asia?
Senator Seselja.
Well, thank you, Mr President. Again, thanks, Senator Molan. Our response is comprehensive in that it not only delivers access to vaccines but also critical economic support to countries in our region that have been profoundly affected by COVID-19. Our Vaccine Access Initiative will deliver a holistic package of end-to-end support. It's not just for the procurement of WHO-approved vaccines. We're providing technical assistance and logistical support, such as training of health workers and cold chain storage, as well as the development of national immunisation policies. Economic measures will support health security, social stability and help drive economic recovery across the region. They're also designed to help protect the most vulnerable who are disproportionately affected by the pandemic, including women and girls and those with a disability. These targeted initiatives will meet the urgent needs of our neighbours and enable the region's recovery from COVID-19 in the longer term. It's not just delivering vaccines, it's about making sure we work with our partners to maintain essential health services and enhance security to those who need it most.
Senator Molan, a final supplementary
question.
Thank you,
Mr President. Can the Minister update the Senate on how Australia is working with other nations to coordinate our COVID-19 support to the region?
Senator Seselja.
Well, thank you very much, Mr President, and I thank Senator Molan for the question. I am pleased to inform the Senate that all Pacific Island nations and Timor-Leste will be provided with the support to achieve full vaccine coverage in line with their own national priorities, and that process has already started. We're working closely with New Zealand, France and the United States in relation to realm countries, French territories and US compact states. This coordination is critical to ensure our Pacific family can have access to vaccines that are safe and effective and can be accessed to support the economic recovery of the region. We believe that Australia and the region will not be safe until everybody is safe. That is why we are making a significant global contribution to ensuring that all of our close partners have access to a safe and effective WHO-approved COVID-19 vaccines and full international support to deliver them.
Senator Birmingham.
Thanks, Mr President. I ask that further questions be placed on the notice